My name is Jimmy. I came from Taiwan, so I moved to New Zealand when I was around about 8 or 9 years old. Been here ever since, been a shore boy ever since. Grew up to primary, high school and uni up in Auckland, and then I moved down to Tauranga for 2 years for work, and then recently I just moved back. Sort of my interests will be sports, so watch a lot of basketball, watch a lot of rugby. At the moment I'm just playing casual touch rugby, and then I'm also a national ref for Touch New Zealand.
Alright, so what specifically, digging into
So Monday to Friday, I'm a sports podiatrist. So what I do is sort of what physio do, but I only look after sort of your lower limbs, so your knees, your calves, your foot, your ankle, that sort of things. Outside of being a sports podiatrist, at the moment I just really enjoy being a national referee for touch rugby, and that's where my main focus is at the moment. Sort of interesting story. So when I was down in Tauranga, I was sort of missing home, so I came back up pretty much every week, every weekend. And my friend who moved back from Melbourne, it was my high school friend, so he moved back from Melbourne, and then he got me. He was refereeing, and then one day he just asked me if I wanted to go with him, and I was like, yeah, I'll go with you. Sort of being play touch rugby when I was in high school, I was like, yeah, I'll go for a game or two, and then that's when I sort of picked up refereeing after 2 games. They just asked me if I wanted to ref, and I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. It was definitely a bit intimidating because obviously most of the players there are quite experienced, and they probably play touch for more than 10 or maybe 20 years. And for me, I know the basic rules of touch rugby, but I don't know the detailed rules of it. So first game was definitely really intimidating, as I remembered.
So I guess you could say intimidating would be first impressions, and how
yeah. So it's quite interesting because you sort of see the game from a different point of view, and then you have players sort of arguing with you as well. So you sort of just need to make the right judgment and make the right calls. So yeah, definitely main focus is sort of moving to a higher level of being a national referee. So in New Zealand, if you're a New Zealand national touch referee, you have 4 levels. You sort of pick up from video studies, so sort of you just got to do some homework yourself to learn the rules, and then also ask the senior referees as well. Another really challenging thing, I guess, in New Zealand right now is because touch is still mainly a summer sport, so you sort of play from the start of term 4 and finish the end of term 1, and then you have a massive break from term 2 to term 3, and then that's when sort of a lot of people, if you don't do other sports activities, then your fitness level kind of drops quite a bit. So back in the day, I think Touch New Zealand, they do require referees to have a certain fitness level. So if we're talking about the beat test, if you want to be a level 4 referee, the minimum requirement is 12.0. So you're sort of running around 2.5k in 10-15 minutes. So you do need to keep quite a good fitness with you. Some of the other challenges that you might face as a young referee will be just the more experienced players sort of coming at you, arguing with you, and there's nothing wrong with that. You just got to be confident. As long as you make the confident call, your assistant referee will always have your back. Probably trying not to ref behind the ruck. So behind the ruck is pretty much you're trying to ref right in front of the ball.
So positionally, right?
Positionally, yeah. So that's probably one of the hardest things. I guess if young referees want to pick up, if young players want to pick up to become a young referee, that's probably the most important thing, because that's one of the hardest habits to kind of get rid of. Reason for that is if you're trying to ref in front of the ruck, sometimes because players are running straight at you and you're trying to run backwards or trying to run sideways, they'll always be faster than you. So if you can develop sort of riffing in a 45 angle when you're young, then that's a really good thing. Well, when I first came over, obviously English level wasn't as good as where I am right now. So I guess communication was probably the hardest thing to begin with. But once you sort of, because you're young, you learn things quite fast. So once you move into sort of intermediate in high school, those sort of difficulties went away, and it's more just trying to focus on school and not get distracted with other things, such as, because I used to play quite a bit of sports when I grew up. So you play sports, but you also need to focus on your study as well. So it's just trying to find the balance between sports and study, or whichever recreation sort of activities that you feel that you like. You just need to find a balance between the two, and I guess that's what a lot of young kids are struggling with. But it's a skill that eventually you will develop. I didn't really know what I wanted to do to begin with, and I have told my parents about this. I wanted to do IT. I wanted to, I liked maths back in the days, so it was sort of between IT and engineering at the end, and then I picked engineering because I thought it would be pretty cool, and then you can jump into sort of software engineering, that sort of things later on as well. So later on, what I found out after the first term was it just wasn't for me. It wasn't what I was expecting at the beginning. I thought it would be nice and cool. You'd just be working with a bunch of chilled people. Not saying engineers are not chilled, but it just wasn't for me. I didn't really like the feeling of sitting down in front of a computer and sort of just trying to do programs or calculate maths and whatever that engineers do. It just wasn't for me. So I actually took 6 months off to try to figure out what's going on in my life, what I like, and there were a lot of sort of different opinions that people threw at me, whether that's my friend or family friends or family members. But at the end of the day, my cousin, who's a pharmacist, one day he sat down with me. He was like, I know you like sports, why don't you do something sort of like a physio or sort of sports medicine sort of things? And I sort of had a research, and I was like, oh yeah, this looks pretty cool. A lot of sports injuries, very interesting. And also growing up, had heaps of sort of foot and ankle injuries and knee injuries, so that sort of put me into that interest as well. So then I sort of had the conversation of talking to my parents that I want to drop out of engineering and then move myself into sort of the health science aspect for university. For me, that conversation was pretty easy. I explained to them what I want. I explained to them why engineering wasn't my cup of tea. So after that, the conversation went pretty smoothly. So I guess that's probably
How can you build that confidence? How can you inspire them to build that?
Yeah, I guess that's probably one of the main issues between sort of your Asian parents and Asian kids these days, is that the parents sort of have a goal for their kids. They want them to be a lawyer, dentist, or a doctor or accountant or whichever, but that may not always be the case. And I believe, growing up, you should have your own choice as well, because at the end of the day, if you do something that they want and it's not something that you enjoy, then you later on, once you graduate and you go out working, you may find it very hard to get through work. You may not want to go to work every day, and then you then take alternative pathways as well. So I guess for kids out there these days, if you're sort of struggling with having this topic with your family or with your parents, is that just be confident of what you have, what you know about yourself, what you want to study, and do a thorough research, and then you can present to them saying, hey, this is what I like, I really enjoyed. On the field, I'm not one of those refs that sort of give you yellow cards straight away without explaining anything, without giving you any warning. So on the field, I try to talk to my players as much as I can, and before and after, and before commencing the game, I always talk to my players what I expect out of them, and that's for both teams as well. So that the players have a good understanding, the captains have good understanding what I expect out of them, the coaches also have a good understanding what we expect out of the players, what the referee expects out of the players as well. And just keep, because most of these, when we go to nationals, most of the teams that I've refed so far, they pretty young athletes coming out. So for young athletes, you just got to keep talking to them, not be aggressive, and then if they really don't listen, then that's when you sort of be a little bit more demanding out of them. Growing up, you get frustrated because with playing time and all that, and if you're not sort of competing in the highest level, then you sort of just want to enjoy yourself. So if I was talking to myself, I would just say, 10 years old myself, I'll just say, enjoy the game, work hard at training, the coaches will see your effort, and you'll get more game time out of that. Yeah. So, with refereeing, I guess a lot of sort of your young athletes, which when we go out around high school, after high school, they seem to just drop off their sports, and it is definitely something that's good to pick up to keep that fitness level up there. It is quite competitive sports, for those of you that don't know touch rugby, and it's something that it's quite interesting that you pick it up and you look at the game from a different point of view. When I first picked it up, I never thought that one day I want to go to the World Cup, and one day I want to become a black badge in New Zealand. That never came across my mind. I thought I would just ref for fun, every now and then, and just keep my fitness up. But once I picked it up, you'll find the game is actually really enjoyable. And every nationals, all the referees in New Zealand, sometimes we get referees from overseas, like Australia, France, Germany. You get those referees come across from overseas, and it's just a big family sort of reunion. We all have our laughters on and off the field, which is good. And then you really learn a lot through those sort of 3 national tournaments from the senior referees and the referee coaches. So my sort of promotion to anyone that's interested in picking up touch refereeing is just go to Rebel Sport, buy a $15 whistle, jump down to one of the modules, and then we'll get you sorted.